Well, welcome back. We're going to continue now our test-taking strategies lesson. We just talked about common kind of mistakes, and hopefully you were able to reflect on some of your test-taking habits and looking at some of the things that you might tend to do while taking an exam. And here are some of the tools that you can use. Using a whiteboard, piece of scratch paper, or even the hard copy of your test to scribble on. If you're a visual person, making drawings, making lists, doing a knowledge dump. Okay, this is everything I know about this topic, and just quickly, scribble it down. Any keywords, anything that's going to help you remember some of the details in some of under some of the topics that you've been studying. Okay, it can also help you just kind of organize your thoughts. Okay, these are the things we talked about, these are the things I need to know, and then you continue from there. Sometimes thinking in reverse is easier for some people. Rather than reading the question first, they look at the answer options. And you look at the answer option, you define that, and then you go to the next and you define it, and so that you know what each answer means, and then you read the question and decide which of those answers, or the definition of those answers, fit into that question. Something that definitely takes practice, but if that makes more sense to you, it's a very effective way to take an exam. Okay. Try not to waste time. You don't want to be a complete clock watcher as you're taking your exam, but you do want to be aware of the time, but don't let yourself get to the point of panicking. Most exams allow approximately 1 minute per question. So again, if you're stuck on something, mark it, go back and review it later. As long as you don't get penalized for it, you can even guess if you don't know the answer. Okay, it's better than not answering it at all. And we've already talked about this, that you probably end up with 2 possible answers. Take each one, put it back into the question, and see which one makes more sense. Key to preparing for exams and studying. So you do have to be self-aware. And part of that self-awareness is being aware of some of your test-taking habits, like reading too much into things or not reading questions completely. Because if you can identify those things, then there are things that you can do about that, and you can try to change that. This is going to be more what's listed here is kind of going back and reviewing your exam, understanding why you missed the question, critically analyze those questions. The thing that's important here is you don't want to just analyze those questions you got wrong, because some of the answers you got correct may be things that you guessed on and you got lucky. So you want to make sure you know why you got it correct. And from that you can even build a study guide. You missed a question. Okay, I think I know why I missed the question, but I definitely need to study this topic in more depth. So you can make that list of things that will help you create a study guide. Again, knowing what that behavior was. Did you just not know the question? And was it just completely knowledge-based? Or was it a behavior? You didn't pull out the keywords correctly and then you rushed through because you didn't read everything completely. Okay? You cannot not study. You can't go into an exam and say, I'm going to wing it and see what happens. Okay? That's not a good idea. And there's too many things that you just cannot memorize. You have to be able to apply things. You have to be able to associate things. Just memorizing a list of terms is not going to help you understand the whys of what you're doing. Okay? So, like I said, if you can identify your pattern, and maybe you truly cannot, and this might be a good conversation to have with an instructor or an academic advisor or your dean. I'm not really sure what I do during a test, but I just know I'm not doing as well as I think I should, or as well as I've been studying for, and maybe they can help you, especially an instructor that has maybe given you several tests and they start seeing a pattern. They may be able to help you identify what those behaviors are for you. So is it just you didn't understand, you didn't have the knowledge, did you misread the question, you didn't pick out the right key words? Again, overthinking or having that mental dialogue and talking yourself out of your answer. I'd say more often than not, once you've chosen an answer and you feel pretty comfortable with it, it's not a great idea to change it unless you have defined that option, the answer option, and truly know that that's the correct answer. Okay. So on the behaviors, it's not just enough to know that you have that behavior, but you need to work on changing it. And students will vary. Sometimes just working on it yourself, being aware, and sometimes taking practice exams so that you can practice changing that behavior is a good idea. Sometimes you can get some coaching from an instructor or, again, a academic advisor. But just to know that you do certain things is not going to help you unless you change those behaviors. After the test, okay, goodness, I already said this about reviewing both correct and incorrect questions. Rework some of the questions, figure out why you got those questions wrong, or even why you got some of the correct ones right if you guessed on them. Fill in knowledge gaps. Like I said, you're going to create a study guide of these questions that maybe you missed, and it's like, well, I didn't quite get this completely, so I'm going to make this list of knowledge gaps or a study guide. Oh, okay. Identify those areas of weakness that will help you concentrate on other exams, or they'll be final exams or your licensing exam. And continuously rethink your study habits. People kind of get caught in certain patterns and will study the same for every topic or study for every course. And sometimes, one course may take more memorization and you can get away with flashcards. Another course will be more application and flashcards may not be helpful. So you may have to study differently for different courses. So here's a little cartoon for you. Calvin, your test was an absolute disgrace. It's obvious you haven't read any of the material. Our first president was not Chef Boyardee, and you ought to be ashamed to have turned in such preposterous answers. I just don't test well. Test anxiety. Okay. Pretty common, and a lot of what you need to do is learn how to control that anxiety. Usually, those students, the more prepared you are, the less anxiety you have. That goes back to studying for your test after that first lecture. Do it in small bits along the way rather than cramming at the end. The cramming at the end, or even in the last 2 days, can bring up increased stress. So trying to identify, again, what brings the stress and that anxiety in you so you can kind of counteract that and make a plan to change that would be helpful. Relaxation techniques, and I'll be honest, sometimes test anxiety in students can get so high that they do need to seek some professional help. And that doesn't mean that they have any sort of, condition, but it does mean they may need some coaching on how to better deal with the anxiety. Okay. So overall, how to cope with anxiety. Eat, drink healthily, and that's, continuously taking care of yourself. Not putting yourself on the back burner for your program or for an exam or for a project. Make sure you get enough sleep, you get enough exercise. If you need some coaching or help from your advisor, make sure to seek that out. That's what they're there for. Study smart, and part of that is, making a study schedule. Make sure you spread things out over time into small bunches of time as opposed to studying everything at the last minute. Practice is whatever that means. If it's a practical type of exam, you need to practice, or practice what would be an application of the information, whatever that might look like for you, your program, and whatever course you're taking. Try to keep calm the day of the test. Okay? Maybe having a cup of coffee before the test, and maybe not having a cup of coffee before the test. Maybe just water would work best for you. Whatever you can do to relax, breathe, nice deep breaths, and give yourself a little treat after the test. Give yourself some reward. Here are some things on the left side of the page are kind of attitude issues, attitude issues that can be changed to combat test anxiety. Looking at tests as opportunities to learn. Okay, this is not just it's not a reflection of you, your personality, or your personal value. It doesn't reflect your abilities to succeed. Okay, it is what you know at the time, and again, you are still learning all this information to try to master it. Remind yourself of your goals, okay, and how that test will get you to those goals, what's happening along the way. On the right side of the page is preparation. If you need your instructor's help, don't be afraid to ask, okay? Use your instructors, use your academic advisors, use your classmates. Seek study partners who challenge you. You need to kind of seek out those study partners that are going to be beneficial to your study. Some people study better with people that study in the same way as them, but other people study better with people that don't. And those are the people that may challenge you a little bit more. So you kind of have to seek that out and test the waters a little bit on what works best for you. And then also, if it gets to that point, get tutoring. And all I will say with these things is just don't wait too long. Don't wait till you're so far kind of in the hole that it's hard to dig yourself out. Never, never, never be afraid to ask for help. Okay, happiness is finishing exams. Thanks for listening.